to all the attendees from across Africa to the launch of PwC's Africa Family Business Survey. Just a couple of admin points before I hand over to Dion Shango, our Africa CEO, and Scott Barnard, the Africa Family Business Leader. There will be time to active session, and we'd like to hear what you think. Also, submit your answers for the polling questions throughout the session, and then the session will be recorded for those who are unable to attend the hour. Also feel free to change your view. You'll see it's the poll, and the next one is how you can change your layout of the session. So there's a stack view, a side-by-side view, and then also a full screen view. So with that, I'll hand over to Dion, who will be setting the scene for this morning's discussion.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Can you see and hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I only ask Andrea because I lost you there for a moment. Good morning, everybody, and a warm welcome to all the attendees across our beautiful continent of Africa, and a special welcome to our family business owners who will be sharing their journeys and insights with us today. Between October and December of 2020, we surveyed over 231 African family business owners in 13 countries and across all sectors of the economy to understand how they are responding to the ongoing pandemic, and more importantly, to understand if they're prepared to meet the future challenges facing their business. During February, we successfully launched our 10th annual Global Family Business Survey, and we're delighted to launch the Africa cut of such survey under the strapline "From Trust to Impact: Why Family Businesses Need to Act Now to Ensure Their Legacy Tomorrow." The survey reveals the current thinking of family business owners as well as their future outlook. Now at PwC, we have a significant focus on family-owned businesses, both globally and in our continent of Africa. We believe that family businesses are the backbone of any economy, given that the family businesses across the world are estimated to contribute more than half of GDP and 2/3 of employment. We therefore want to make sure that they thrive and are successful by providing insights and assistance where they are needed, and by walking with them along their journey of growth and development. Our survey's findings show that it's no longer enough to simply rely on values and legacy to propel the business forward. Tomorrow's family businesses require a new approach for lasting success, one that is based on accelerated digital transformation, the prioritization of sustainability goals, as well as a professional family business or office governance structure. Succession planning still also remains one of the most significant issues and probably one of the most problematic in any family business. This should be addressed sooner rather than later, and most certainly we are well placed to share perspectives with any family business owner in that regard. And so during our 60-minute session today, we will discuss key takeaways from the survey, the views expressed by family business owners, as well as the call for action over the next few steps to ensure that family businesses' longevity and success are ensured. With that, I will hand over to my partner, Skalk, who will be moderating this morning's discussion. Skalk, over to you.
Thanks, Dion, and good morning to all of our attendees today and our panelists. And welcome to our Africa Family Business Survey launch. I'm really looking forward to our discussion this morning. Today we will cover three main topics that were highlighted in our survey. Firstly, we will look at sustainability and the family businesses perspective on this. Secondly, we'll talk about family dynamics, focusing on governance and succession. And then lastly, we will discuss digitization and looking at whether family businesses are fit for the future. Joining us in our panel today are Dion Shango, our PwC Africa CEO, Vimal Shah, Chairman of Bitco Africa, all the way from Kenya, Imran Sada, Director of the World Group in Botswana, Philip Kravitz, the Chairman of Cape Union Mart Group here in South Africa, Trisha Cook, the Chairperson of Bracken Timbers, also from South Africa. To our panelists, thank you again for your time today, and thank you that you are willing to share some of your thoughts and perspectives with our attendees. But before we discuss our main topics, I would like to share some interesting results from our survey specifically dealing with the COVID pandemic. Our survey showed that 77% of African family businesses retained as many staff as possible during the pandemic. 50% supported their local communities, and 38% provided emotional or mental health support to staff. Interestingly, and maybe not surprising, African family businesses tended to provide similar levels of staff support as the global average, but were more likely to make some form of financial sacrifice. 43% took salary sacrifices, 38% took bonus reductions, 32% provided financial support to staff. All of these at least 10% higher than the global average. Now, this is clearly proof of the critical importance of family businesses and also the importance of family businesses lasting through generations to come. And I know that all of our panelists will corroborate this, and we will hear more about this a bit later. So let's turn to our first topic of discussion. In contrast to global averages, where family businesses have a focus on sustainability in the context of reducing carbon footprint, in Africa, the bigger focus is on supporting local communities. In Africa, 86% of respondents say they engage in some form of social responsibility, including 41% who say they engage in philanthropy and 67% who say they contribute to their local communities. And we all know that sustainability has now become a business imperative and is no longer just a nice to have. In our survey, we assessed what contribution family businesses are making to the environment and society, and what strategies are in place to achieve what we call total impact. This is of crucial importance for all businesses, but even more so for family businesses, as being able to achieve and demonstrate total impact is what we call having a license to operate. One of the key findings around sustainability is a bit of a contradiction. When our sample was asked to list their top 5 priorities, only a minority listed items around sustainability as part of their top priorities. However, the majority replied that there is an opportunity to lead on sustainable business practices and other societal priorities. The aspiration is there, but family businesses need strategies to reach their goal. COVID-19 has increased family business owners' desire to protect their businesses and to create a legacy, but only a third of African family businesses have a developed and communicated sustainability strategy. So let's turn to our panelists, and Vimal, I'm going to come to you first. Interestingly, you have turned CSR into SRC, your social responsible company. But when we look at the contradiction that we see here, in that family businesses see that they can lead the way on sustainability, but a low percentage have a formal plan in place. What is your view on that? And maybe share with us your company and family business. How do you approach sustainability and corporate responsibility?
Thank you, Shok. Good morning, everyone. I think, frankly, as you put it, CSR, the way we term it in our family business, is cosmetic social responsibility. And that becomes like something for showing off. And what we said is, let's make it SRC, which means being a socially responsible corporate. So basically, the way we do things, the way our people work, we enhance happy, healthy living across the region. And therefore, it becomes a wish to, not a have to, that we have to look at this position. Number one. Number two, I think when you look at these aspects, a lot of people feel that, yes, we must take charge, we must do something about it. But I think it's up to us as leaders in the company and in the family businesses, where if we communicate this to all our people, they will act as we do. So a lot of times in family businesses, if the patriarch or the people who are at the top, if they don't communicate this, if they don't lead by example, I think it stays and remains as an intention. So what we've done is making sure that the intention is clearly communicated, it's drafted, it's very clear in the code of ethics, and that's what we do all the time. So it becomes a part of our purpose. And I think it's not an obligation that you must be part of SRC or CSR. I think it should be more of a responsibility rather than an obligation. That's the way we take it, that we are responsible for the environment, we're responsible for water, we're responsible for carbon footprint. And in that manner, we've done that demonstratively in all our businesses, so that it's clear by intention that this is what we want to do, and that's how we're going to live. So the issue is moving from knowing. A lot of people have a knowing, but moving from knowing to action, and really taking faster decisions on really can we do something about it. Because I think the survey shows clearly that there's a lot of good intention. People want to, but they don't get around doing it. So I would like to leave it there.
Thank you, Vimal. And that's exactly what we've seen. People have the intention, and we talk to them. That's clearly what they would like to do, but whether that actually comes through in practice, I think is always the challenge. So, Philip, I want to turn to you. Your family business or family and the organization have a very strong position when it comes to your values, and how they translate into a solid sustainability or total impact strategy. Maybe you can share with us your view on sustainability and how your family and family business have incorporated that into your day-to-day lives or business, and how you went about doing that.
Thanks, Schalk. Our vision statement is very clearly, we want to be a world-class retailer, trusted for its family values and passion to improve lives. That's what we're all about. Now, it was in the 1970s that Milton Friedman spoke about the sole purpose of the corporation, made it very clear that companies must obey the law, but beyond that, their job is to make money for shareholders. Now, how that has changed, because the same business roundtable that endorsed that has now come up with a different set of answers. And that one says, delivering value to your customers, investing in your employees, dealing fairly and ethically with your suppliers, supporting the communities in which you work, generating long-term value for shareholders. That becomes the byproduct if you do everything else well. So it all starts with your values. And from our point of view, we believe that we cannot equip our next generation with answers. We can only leave them with values. And what our aim is as the third generation is to instill those family values into the next generation. Our commitment to upliftment, our commitment to education, to be good corporate citizens, to be sustainable. So I believe that those values actually drive everything that happens in the business. And we have made very clear what our values are. Our staff know them, our staff understand them. We have not been particularly good at conveying that outside of the business to the larger environment. But we think that is going to become self-evident in time. Sustainability is, of course, one of the critical areas. And as far as we're concerned, sustainability permeates everything. It permeates our products. We now use redown, where we take down from existing surplus jackets and bedding and things like that, clean it and reproduce it. We don't go and pluck live feathers. Your formaldehyde-free dyes, the way you make everything is important. So it's your product, it's your packaging, which is a huge drain on sustainability. Just think of the plastic bags. It's your presentation, the way you display your products in your stores and your shop fittings and things like that. And then it's the proactive interventions, like we've planted 10,000 trees on the garden routes to repopulate an area that was burned. We need a place for our future hikers to go. And you know, we make garments with sunlight because our whole factory is dominated with solar energy today. So these are the sort of values that we have to install in our generation, and we also have to have all our people in our company buy into them.
Thank you, Philip. And I like what you said there. You manufacture your garments with sunlight. I think I will always remember that. Dion, I want to turn to you, and just from a PwC perspective, I mean, you have the opportunity to talk to a lot of our clients and companies and organizations across Africa. What is your view, and what do you see in the market in relation to sustainability?
Skalk, as a global network, PwC has actually come to the recognition that ESG as a new area of growth and investment and need for the world and for corporates is something that will see investment running into the trillions of dollars in the next couple of years. That is how big an impact it will have on life as we know it and on how businesses are run. Now, certainly the results from the survey are suggesting that the respondents from Africa are lagging somewhat behind their global peers in how they are thinking about ESG, sustainability, and in how they are investing in it, which I find quite interesting in the sense that, when I think about the role that business plays on our continent, it's clear that business is a critical aspect of how many countries are developing. We all know that, governments cannot do it all on their own on the African continent. Our governments in our continent are not as well endowed financially as those of many of the first world countries, places like the EU and the US, North America. And that has become, abundantly clear, especially now during this pandemic that we are in the midst of. And so I have this suspicion that, many aspects of ESG are already at play, and businesses are actually doing and practicing some of those principles on a daily basis, but just without packaging it as ESG. Often, I get the sense that people tend to over-index the E in ESG, in the sense that as soon as you hear ESG, people think climate or only the environment. But the S and the G are actually critically important. When I think about the S and the fact that the point I mentioned earlier of the contribution to employment that family businesses have on our continent, family businesses are critical to the African economy, absolutely, absolutely vital. In fact, I would say those family businesses play a more important role than the large listed or multinational companies. And so I'm really encouraged and inspired by the work being done by family businesses across Africa. And I just think we need to support those businesses to amplify and share and package their story better as to how they are adopting and embracing the values and principles of ESG and making sure that those are baked into their business models going forward. And that's really exciting for us as PwC to be part of that journey, growing, evolving, and developing with those family businesses.
Thanks, Dion. And as Philip have also said, in terms of communicating what the business does around sustainability, not only internally but externally, is also crucial. And family businesses are trusted just by their very nature of being a family business. And I think that's quite important to get that message out there. Patricia, I want to turn to you. And Philip spoke about the next generation and how we need to get our values, sustainability agenda embedded into the next generation. So just from your perspective, what role does Next Gen play in supporting the sustainability agenda? And do you also experience that in your family business?
Yes, thank you. We sustainability has been, in terms of the family and the next generation, has been paramount at the moment, you know, in the last few years. My dad has built the business over the last 60 years and obviously is wanting one of the family to take it over. And that's always been at his heart, you know, all his life. And so the question was, you know, what is the next step? And that's where we engaged PwC, and certainly has been tremendously helpful from the sustainable handover to the next generation. And some really tough discussions we had. It's still quite tough in terms of family dynamics. And yes, I'm the yeah, I'm the next generation, and my children are very much understanding the sustainability and the need for the company to continue into the next generations, so that we can be there to support the community, to be involved in the community, to create jobs for the community. And that is certainly a huge focus from the business point of view, but from the family sustainability, yes. Systems and plans have been put into place, and we're certainly on board to make sure that the company goes to the next generation, yes.
Fantastic.
With
Thanks,
much
Patricia.
thanks to all the with much thanks to Des and Jenny, who helped us through the whole process.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. And we'll talk about family dynamics a little bit later on
Yes.
as well. Imran, I just want to turn to you lastly on sustainability. You know, our conditions in Africa differ a little bit from the rest of the world. You know, in our survey, we saw that issues relating to diversification and expansion, and also innovation and digitization, are key priorities for family businesses in South Africa. So we've just spoken about sustainability, and you know that it is absolutely a business imperative and not a nice to have. So if those aren't, you know, the key priorities for businesses in South Africa, I mean, what is your view on that? Do you think that's African businesses have to reprioritize? Is it okay not to focus on that? What is your perspective?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for having me. Yeah, I think it's expected that because our conditions differ from the rest of the world. Africa, as we know, a lot of Africa is less developed than the first world. Our unemployment rates are a lot higher, so the focus would naturally be more on the CSR and philanthropy, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that. We do have a responsibility towards the environment. And there's a lot we can do. Many family businesses, including our own, do certain things, and as Dion pointed out earlier, many people don't package it and don't sell it. A lot of us do it naturally without realizing that we're actually contributing to reducing the carbon footprint. For example, an initiative tiny thing that my father started many years ago was that he started reusing envelopes. Everyone from all over the group, from 20 or 30 different companies, sent him documents on a regular basis. Whenever he returns something, it's always in an envelope that has come in. Whenever anything's printed for his office, or my office for that matter, it's always on the back of already used paper. So these are little things. We do other larger things, like we ensure we reuse pallets. We promote the use of solar energy, and there's so much more we can do. But again, it's a function of the nature of the environment in which we operate. You know, Africa and Botswana specifically our markets are generally very price sensitive, and our consumers aren't always able to pay a premium for more carbon eco-friendly products. So we've got to sort of strike a balance between price, quality, and eco-friendliness.
And you know, that's certainly one of the bigger challenges, you know, on the continent. And you know, as you say, is our responsibility towards being socially responsible, and how you balance that with the economics of that and what your market is willing to pay for your product. So certainly a challenge. Thanks for that. Andrea, I just want to turn to you and see whether we've got any results from our first poll.
Yes, thanks, Schalk. So our first question posed was, does your family business have a sustainability strategy, including the ESGs? And for those on the call, majority said yes, which is fantastic.
All right, that's great to hear. And for all our attendees, please, if you have a question for the panelists, just pop the question into the chat, and Andrea will pick that up and pose it to our panelists. So let's move on to our second theme, which is family dynamics. We have always thought of a family legacy as an advantage to the business, something to leverage, and that could lead to real competitive advantages over non-family businesses. However, in our survey, we saw a potential misalignment in the pace of change or development between the business and the family ownership practices. On the family side, we measured little progression towards more advanced practices and professionalization. Even if technology, new ways of communication, international education, and more career options for next gens have changed the context of how to manage family dynamics, it seems that the incumbent generation do not respond to these developments. Important questions like how to bridge the generational gap while trying to develop the next generation into responsible shareholders, competent board members, or future leader roles seems not to be addressed properly. Family harmony should also never be taken for granted. It needs work and planning, and it should be approached with the same focus and professionalism that apply to business strategy and operational decisions. The survey shows that 76% of family businesses don't have a succession plan in place to make sure that the business is passed down to the next generation in a planned and formalized manner. Similarly, only 19% of families have a family constitution or charter, which links strongly to the prior statement, although 80% wants to ensure the business stays in the family and want to create a legacy. About half of first-generation African family businesses expect that the next generation will become the majority shareholders in 5 years' time. I've also seen through my experience working with family businesses that succession is always something that is almost taken for granted in the family, that yes, we have thought about it and it will just automatically happen. But we see time and again that if there's not a formalized plan in place, and if succession was not discussed in an open forum with the family members, that it creates conflict down the track. So I want to turn to our panelists. Patricia, I'm going to ask you, you've shared with us that you've recently gone through a process of formalizing governance and succession within your family and family business. If you want to share with us what triggered that process, and how did you go about bringing everybody to the table, getting everybody's views out, and putting that into a formal written document, a family constitution?
Yeah, thank you, Skulk. Bracken Timbers has been around for 60 years, and through my dad's hard work and determination, and he's always wanted his family to take over the business. And about 25 years ago, he started changing his ideas because situations were changing, and he had his wishes written in his will, and he was sharing some of those things with myself and my brother. And eventually I just said, we actually need to get professional help with this and get all the discussions, as you mentioned, out on the table. And so we approached PwC, and we met with the Pietermaritzburg office. And very hard questions were asked through the PwC process. and some of them very uncomfortable and difficult to answer. But now we have a documented succession plan going forward. It has been difficult from an interpersonal relationship in the family, and that is something we each having to work on an ongoing basis. But certainly from the staff in the business point of view, it has put everybody on a sure footing and sort of given them security on the way forward for the company that they work for. We have an unbelievably passionate staff, and they certainly, put their full commitment into the job that they are employed to do. But knowing that the business is secure for the foreseeable future certainly gives them a whole lot more confidence. Yes, it has been difficult from a family point of view, but we're working through that. And Philip made a comment about putting it out there that we're sustainable and we have those goals and values. That certainly is something that has been a continual conversation at Bracken. We're there for the greater good. We're not here for just the individual, and that's how we function as a family as well. We're not here just for one person. Everybody works together as a family for the greater good of the family, not for the greater good of one person on their own. So those are the challenges we've faced, but hopefully a bit more secure for the future.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. I think that's one of the important factors of going through a process to write a family constitution is to get everything out, on the table, and discuss all those issues and to ask those difficult questions. Philip, I want to turn to you, and I have two questions for you. Firstly, we've spoken about having a family constitution, in a written format. But what about family values and the family's mission? Do you, as an organisation, have that in written format? And have you found that helped you through the pandemic that we just went through, and I guess we're still going through? And do any of you, or do you have a defined value statement in place as a family? And how does that help you? So that's my first question. I'll hold my second question forward later. And Philip, you're still on mute.
Thank you. I thought that was the two questions already. Let me say, very simply, there are two principles which have always guided us. The first principle is that the business is only an asset. Now, there may be strong emotional ties, there may be all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, the business is only an asset. And you've got to see it in that perspective. And it's part of a portfolio which we hold of our family wealth. And we tend to have our companies consolidated into a family office, then owned by our family trust. And it's at our family trust that everything emanates in terms of values and what we're doing, in case there are businesses that we might want to buy or sell or do anything of that nature. So we actually centralize it all at the top. And the second principle is that we never, ever want our business to be a straitjacket for our children. We want our children to do whatever they want to do in life. My goal certainly is to maximize the value of the family business. At different stages, I've had all of my three daughters involved in the business. One went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, ended up in Israel, lives there with her family, and of course watches every single ad and every single TV production and all our online stuff, and gives us regular feedback and criticism. I have another daughter who went to Wharton, went to Harvard, was involved with Boston Consulting Group, brought huge experience, did wonderful things in terms of developing our online side of the business, but was made an offer in the private equity field and the venture capital field, felt she wanted to follow that. I only encouraged her to do it. Third is our eldest daughter, who's in the business, operating in every sphere, doing a wonderful job, working well with our professional CEO. And that is the way that we're currently working. And whether my eldest daughter will want to continue in the business, whether my eldest grandson, who's just turned 17, would want to one day go into the business, or any of the others, those are options, but they are not predetermined. We don't want to put anybody into a straitjacket and force them to do what we haven't done before. We have very clearly at the top of our family trust vision and mission statements, and more important, values statements on what we're trying to do. And I think that for us, that works particularly well. We did take our 3 daughters and 2 sons-in-law over to Harvard, where we did a course called From Generation to Generation, Multi-Generational Family Businesses. And we learned 3 invaluable lessons. Number 1, treat your business like your business and your family like a family. That was something very important, and we try and do that. The second point was perhaps even more important, where we said that as far as the family is concerned, we should always remember surprise is the enemy, structure is your friend. And we've tried to put in place rules and structures and things like that, rather than just coming with surprises. And of course, the third rule from Harvard was wonderful. It said, don't have too many children. And those 3 principles have been pretty useful in guiding us. So that's in answer to the first part of the question, the family mission and the written constitution. It's centralized up at our trust. It's also defined in my own letter of wishes. And thank God, my children live the legacy. I thought we were a pretty charitable family. They are exceeding the bounds of it. Dad can't be put more into the charitable trust. So I think that we've managed to convey those values right the way through. I think that the way we treat our people, we never retrenched anyone out of our 3,600 people during this period, which has been absolutely awful. We won't put people out onto the streets. Greatest challenge that Africa has is one word, it's poverty. And if we don't create jobs, this whole continent is going to implode. So that's the answer to the first question.
Thanks, Philip. And I think we'll keep it to just one question. I just want to turn to Vimal. We mentioned family conflict earlier on. I just want to hear from you. How do you deal with conflict in your family, and whether you have certain policies or procedures in place should any form of conflict arise?
Thanks, Shock. I think it's normal when you have a large enterprise, when you have a family-owned business, professionally run, you will have different points of view and you have to allow different positions. That's normal. But at the same time, you'll have issues where somebody says yes, somebody says no. So the point is, you can call that conflict or you can call that non-conflict. And I think the issue around it is having open dialogue, discussing openly, being able to be equals rather than having a patriarch who says it's only my way or the highway, right? That's important to rule out, number one. Number two, then listen to all the views and agree on where's our mission. Because once you're mission focused, once you have a very clear vision that we're climbing this mountain together, then it's not about you're slow, I'm fast, or I'm going downhill. It's all going the same route. And I think aligning everyone is important. At the same time, aligning the family owners, aligning the professionals, aligning people in management, in operations, and making sure that everybody's aligned towards the mission. So the minute the focus is on mission rather than on my view or your view, it becomes much more easier. And therefore, you avoid conflict, because what's the right thing to do? It's not about who said what. It's about what mission are we on and where are we going? And I think that is clearly stated in the sense of purpose and your mission. So in a way, I would say inspire rather than instigate or push, and also have something we call having a startup and a founder's mentality. That's what we're putting in now. Even though we're 35 years old in the business and we've got 6,000 employees, but ultimately we're telling everybody have a startup and a founder's mentality where things can be changed fast and things can be changed on the fly. So the conflict is where somebody says, I've done it like this for 35 years, I can't be wrong. And that's where conflict arises from. And then the youngsters will come and say, hey, you know what? I have a better way, I have a faster way, I think I can be faster. So allowing that to happen, and then ultimately it's changing ourselves also, the willingness to change ourselves to not have conflict, because you know, some people always complain the next generation doesn't understand what we're doing. We've done it like this for years. It's different now, including digitization. So I think a lot of that would avoid conflict. So open dialogue, willingness to change, and the ability to say, fine, let's be clear about issues.
Thank you, Vimal. And certainly, you know, I do like the way that you keep the entrepreneurial spirit alive in your organization. And you know, you are absolutely spot on. You know, the conflict that arises between the incumbent generation and the next generation when it comes to doing things in a different way, or indeed focusing, you know, on other matters such as, you know, sustainability that we discussed earlier on. We've got a question from the attendees, Andrea.
Hi, Scott. Yes. So a question was, we are first generation business that person started. My children are still in school and young. And how do I instill the family business awareness and involvement to them from a young age?
Okay, Imran, if I can maybe ask you if you want to comment on that question. Andrea, I assume it was not posted to a specific person.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, it leads right into the comment that I was thinking of making. Vimal, you raise important points about allowing the younger generation to be innovative and so on. You know, we have a philosophy of trying to involve the younger generation as early on as possible, even before they become employees or become owners or board members. You know, just as teenagers and university students, we talk to them about business. We talk to them about what we're doing. We bring them in to come and visit as often as we can. I take sometimes when I do a trip to some of our stores out of town, I'll get my 18-year-old or 19-year-old to drive me there, let him walk around with me and so on, and get them involved from early on so that they understand how things work on at ground level. And I think that, for me, helps them understand the importance of the business at ground level, so that they don't just walk into a boardroom and have no appreciation of what people on the ground actually do.
Thank you, Imran. And I guess that's a great way of familiarizing them with, you know, what is happening at ground level, I should say. And can avoid a lot of non-family members in the business, you know, and family members, you know, that you know, we non-family members sometimes see that family members think they've got an entitlement to certain roles, but certainly if you familiarize them and bring them up through the ranks, you know, that will avoid some of that conflict. So thank you for that question. Let's turn on to our last theme, which is digitization. In our survey, we explored the correlation between digital capabilities, effective decision-making, and sustainability. And we concluded that those with strong digital capabilities perform better and are more agile. We believe that looking at these correlations, we can find interesting patterns and evidence of what we believe make family business resilient, but also what they need to be future-proof or fit for the future in the new normal. In responding to the pandemic, family businesses have also been challenged to keep up with the changing market dynamic brought about by technology. Many African countries lack the technological infrastructure needed to enable people to work remotely and continue with other aspects of their lives via online channels. Only 62% of African family businesses surveyed are enabling staff to work from home, compared to 80% and globally. Although 4 out of 5 say that initiatives related to digitization, innovation, and technology are a top priority, progress in these areas has been slow. African family businesses with a turnover of more than $10 million are more likely to prioritize aspects relating to innovation or digitization than families with a turnover of less than that. And third plus generation African family businesses are also more likely than first and second generation to prioritize aspects relating to innovation and digitization. Only 26% of family businesses surveyed say that their digital journey is complete, and 57% believe they have a long way to go. And although they named digital capabilities as their second highest priority, 28% still report in our survey that they don't have strong digital capabilities, and that developing these capabilities is not high on their action agenda. Now, there's clear evidence among African family businesses that having strong digital capabilities enable agility and success, and that they have a similar mindset for sustainability. So, Imran, I'm going to come to you for a question in relation to this. What do you think of these correlations? Any of these comments about any underlying reasons they see at the basis of these correlations that maybe can be further explored or changed? What is your view in relation to that?
Well, I think it's an important point that you make, especially for African family businesses, and how typically first and second generations often lag behind. It makes perfect sense that those with more real-time information, more meaningful information, almost always make quicker and more informed decisions. For first generations, I think it's always a challenge, especially because sort of the first generation, being the more elderly, find it a little bit more difficult to measure or predict the effectiveness of technology and innovation. It's also more difficult for them to appreciate massive investments in technology that's non-tangible and almost is very quickly depreciated, and there's no guarantees as to how effective it's going to be. There have been so many horror stories about rollouts of massive software programs that have failed, and with massive cost overruns and so on. So I think first generations always have a little bit of difficulty wrapping their heads around these massive investments.
And I guess it's so much more important than to bring in the next generation to be part of that decision-making process or change, I guess, in many respects. Dion, I just want to turn to you. We as an organization, we are constantly changing the way we do things in terms of digitizing our service offerings, how we interact with clients. But you also have a view and see what others are doing in the market. Can you share a bit of your perspectives on what you see out there in relation to digitization?
Sure, Schalk. The two quick points I'd like to share are as follows. Number one, when people speak about digitization, about evolving on the digital journey, people often fall into the trap of thinking that digitization is only about the tech, the technological kit or tools, as it were. And actually, we need to remind ourselves all the time that digital is actually about people. Digital is about a mindset, and digital is really about bringing together and marrying man and machine. Digital is about really leveraging the power of what technology can do to perform, the more repetitive tasks that don't really add value to the development of people, in order to allow people the time to do more meaningful or valuable work that will bring them much more fulfillment. That is really the opportunity. That is where things like automation can come in handy and add real value to a particular business. So very important to understand what we talk about when we reference this word digital, or people or organizations becoming more digital in their construct. The second point is about coming up with a digital strategy for a family business. It's very important from the outset to understand what the outcome is that a family business is trying to achieve. And that whoever is advising a family business on what it should be doing to evolve itself digitally, is that it comes up with a strategy that will enable it to achieve and attain that desired outcome. Now, why do I make this point? Over the last 3 years or so, more and more, we speak particularly to the larger organizations out there, and CEOs are saying to us that they are experiencing a fair bit of transformation out of the fact that, millions of dollars, I would even venture to say hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent globally in people, organizations, upgrading their technological platforms, investing in new tools, and the like. But the benefits that have been promised from having made those investments are slow to come through. And so it is very important to have a clearly articulated strategy of what it is that wants to be achieved by way of outcome before a family business goes out and spends lots of money running into millions on a digital strategy or investing in new tools or platforms. So that is just the one perspective I wanted to add on this particular discussion of digital. Yes, it's important to have a digital strategy, but let us always be clear on what it is we want to achieve and the type of outcome we're looking for.
Thank you, Dion, and certainly the human elements of that as well that shouldn't be missed. Philip, I want to move over to you. In your group of companies and businesses, you've gone a long way down that digital journey. Maybe, and I'm just conscious of time, maybe just share with our attendees some of the challenges that you had along that journey and how those were resolved.
Sure. Well, the very first thing is that a very brilliant futurist by the name of Dr. Marvin Seitron visited this country many years ago. And he said, you're not going to have a situation where big eats small anymore. It's going to be a case of quick eats slow. And one of the key factors of digitization is to provide you with speed and with agility. We have invested hugely in everything from our retail systems to our product lifestyle management to our backbone. And we've committed fortunes into this particular area. We could not exist without them. We've had our fair share of hassles. We've got a massive Oracle installation at the moment. Try and do that in the middle of COVID and you learn all about the problems. But, many years ago, everybody speaks about the 4 Ps of product, price, promotion, and place. I've always spoken about the 4 Ts, which would be the competing forces for us in the 21st century. The first T is time, shortening the time between conception of a need in the marketplace and consumption of that need. In other words, speed to market, you want to be first with the goodies. The second one is training. Now, we are using digital as our key step in training. We're training people at home, at night, in their homes, and upskilling them, because the one who's got the best trained workforce is going to win. The third T is 24-hour trading. Trading whenever the customer wants to do business. And that's, of course, online, and that's digital. And we've made huge investments, and we've scored heavily from there, particularly through this COVID crisis. And the fourth T is technology into every single product. And whether it's a pair of socks that wicks the moisture away from your feet, or whether it's a Garmin watch, whatever it is, we use digital to enhance all of those factors. And the key aspect for retailers is to realize the world has changed. The decision on what to buy and who to buy it from is now made before the customer leaves home. They go onto the internet, they research, they choose, and they find where the best price is. That's a frightening concept, because no longer will the one with the best dress windows and the most expensive location attract the customer. And digital is your path to that. Finally, and this perhaps is a critical aspect, we've all been through the stages of customer satisfaction, delighting the customer, exciting the customer, etc. The new game in town is the customer wants a relationship. And that is what it's all about. And we have to provide that relationship, that the customer has a relationship with us through our friends and family program and things like that. Without technology, you cannot do it. So it's critical and has helped us considerably.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. And I guess, from a relationship perspective, coming back to one of Dion's points, is using those digital tools and means to create a relationship, but not forgetting about the human aspect of that relationship. Vimal, I want to come to you with one of our last questions. When we look at the priorities of African family businesses according to our survey, what is your perspective on that? Do you think yeah, we've got it right? Do you think African businesses have it right in terms of their priorities, or is there anything else that you would suggest they should focus on?
Thanks, Shock, and it's always good to be last, right? Because you can cover up. But I think when I look at surveys and when I look at the real aspirations of African businesses, I think a lot of family-owned businesses I talk to, and I call them family-owned businesses because we could be family-owned but professionally run, right? So there's a difference between the same, and I think a lot of people in family-owned businesses aspire to be professionalizing one day, but they just don't know how to do that, and I think that's another priority. But I guess when you look at digitization, when you look at innovation, when you look at market dynamics, the last 1.5 years actually has thrown a different challenge to all of us to say, you know what, digitization becomes a top priority, because if you were to work from anywhere, work from device, work from wherever, not from home, but work from wherever, you can be that. And I think it opens up a lot more different avenues for family businesses, because they can move very, very fast rather than say we're stuck to this paradigm or what. And I think priorities will keep changing. And I think a lot of priorities have changed also, but upskilling, no doubt about it, aligning people, very, very important. Sustainability, and I think the definition of sustainability needs to change. It can't just be about environment. It's got to be about people, it's got to be about planet, and it's got to be about profit. And I think a lot of people have put the last P as profit becoming sustainability, that I need to make sure that I survive in order for me to go forward. And that's what COVID has shown us, to say, hey, you know, you need to survive. Second thing is, in order to survive, I need to make sure that my people are, first of all, safe or whatever. And I think that becomes a survival instinct that entrepreneurs or family-owned businesses have all the time. They can move that pretty fast. Number three, I think agility is to say, we can change very fast. We can say we had a 10-year plan to do X, Y, Z, but hey, you know what? We'll change it, we'll tweak it, and move it very fast. So I think the decision-making processes are much more agile, much more faster, and it's not always about profit now. I think it's impact, and I think trust in family-owned businesses becomes a big issue, because there are differing views right now. Even on the vaccine, there are differing views. On the rollout, there are differing views globally. There are less of arguments. So family-owned businesses need to say, let's align to the goal, align to the mission, and then start making it happen. If we need to change, let's change the mission or let's change the goal, and then we still stay aligned on the new goal. I think that's important. So at the same time, digitalness is never going to end. So there's never a start and a stop, right? You're not going to have ever a state where, oh, we're already digitized, so we don't have a problem. Where does it end? I mean, when it comes to machine learning, when it comes to AI, things are evolving, and they will keep on evolving. And let me tell you, the next guy is always going to be faster to get that. And I think, like Dion said, people are going to be important, and how people can use that data, can use that information to take faster decisions, right? Like what was just now said by was it Philip, saying that, you know, the issue around people know what they want to buy, where they want to buy it from. So it's all about just execution, and they can do it from a gadget, right? So again, our borders are going to change. Our whole thing about Africa being 54 countries can change dramatically, because you can buy from wherever, and that's what people are grappling with. So I think transformation is a priority, but again, the thing is that transformation to what? From family-owned to professional, and therefore go public and become another public company. So I think when we look at it in terms of a long-term legacy, right? And people say, I want to leave my legacy. Legacies are going to change. I think a lot of distractions are there. A lot of the youngsters want to say, it's not about legacy, it's about, can I make impact? Can I make something happen? Can I make a difference during my lifestyle? And it's not going to be about sticking to an asset or sticking to a name and say egos. So I guess I turned the question around totally to say the priorities need to be reprioritized regularly. And I think based on a scale of 1 to 10, if you do probability and gravity of the current situation, whenever you are. I mean, everybody expected 2021 to be a fantastic year because we're rebounding, we're going back. And we've got March and April now with the next rebound. And it's like lockdowns, closures, and nobody ever anticipated that. So your survey is going to be timed out by saying, you know, you need a new survey right now in terms of saying,
yes,
there's never going to be a post-COVID era in that opinion. So what I'm saying is we're never going to say, oh, now we're going to go back to the norm. The norms are going to change. And therefore, I think priorities will keep changing. It's not about priorities I stated in a survey and we documented that down. Obsolescence is getting faster now, you know. The minute you put something new digitally, within 3-4 weeks, you've got another better option available. And it's better, faster, speedier. And you might say, you know, what I put up was obsolete. So we've got to live with that. And I think it's a VUCA world, right? You know the word VUCA, right? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and adversity. Our job as family business is to remove that and try and make it far more prepared, ready, and say, fine, we are ready for whatever it is. Always changing and never ending. It's work in progress all the time.
It is indeed. Thank you, Vimal, for that. And yeah, we've run out of time, and that was certainly very insightful. And Vimal, I'm certainly going to take the 3 Ps from you, and Philip, you had the 4 Ts. So certainly something to take with. Yeah, and as you've said, Vimal, you're making a difference. I'm sure all of those that attended today, you know, appreciate all of your insights, and I'm sure that will make a difference, you know, to them and in their family businesses. So Dion, Patricia, Imran, Philip, and Vimal, thank you very much for your contribution today. And for all of our attendees, thank you very much for attending. You will all receive an email during the course of today with a link to our survey. I trust that you will find the findings of that survey insightful. And to Vimal's point, you know, it's an ever-changing environment, an ever-changing landscape that we operate in and work with. And yeah, maybe we'll have another survey soon. But for now, thank you very much for everybody's contribution. Thank you for your time, and we wish you all a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.